Most nonprofit leaders think major gifts begin with a wealthy donor. Well, they don't. Major gifts begin with a relationship. In fact, many of the donors capable of making your organization's largest gifts may already be giving to you today. The problem is you're treating them like annual donors instead of future major donors. Today, I'm going to walk you through what I call the major gift trajectory. That's the journey every donor takes, if done correctly, from being a transactional giver to becoming a relational donor that ultimately makes transformational gifts. When you understand this journey, fundraising stops feeling random and starts becoming intentional. That is our focus on this episode. Let's huddle up. Before we jump into today's episode, I want to tell you about something I am incredibly excited to share. Over the years, I've coached hundreds of nonprofit leaders who all had one thing in common. They knew major gifts were essential to achieving their mission, but they lacked a clear roadmap for building the donor relationships that make those gifts possible. That's why I created the Major Gift Leadership Cohort. The inaugural cohort begins September 10th and runs through October 29th. Over 8 weeks, we'll work together in a small group coaching environment to build a practical, relationship based fundraising system you can implement immediately. The program includes exclusive video curriculum developed specifically for the cohort, weekly live coaching sessions, practical implementation assignments, a private community of nonprofit leaders, and a personal one on one coaching session with me. Enrollment is limited to just 15 participants, so every participant receives personalized guidance and support. Right now, you can join the priority access list. You'll receive early notification when registration opens. 1 full week of exclusive access before registration opens to the public, and an exclusive 10% early registration discount. To learn more and to join the priority access list, visit thefundcoach.com or click the link in the show notes. If you're ready to make this the season you build a sustainable major gift program, I'd love to have you join us in the Major Gift Leadership Cohort. Hey, welcome to another episode of Huddle Up with Mark, the Fund Coach. I'm Mark Duncan. This is great to be with you today, and I'm really excited about this topic because I talk about relationship fundraising. I talk about the importance of building trusting relationships, but I don't know if I've used a podcast episode to sort of walk you through this trajectory. I know that I often talk about how it's important to convert, right, transactional givers into relational donors who make transformational gifts. But what does that look like in a practical sense? And what are the things that you can do today to start this journey officially with your existing donors? So let's start with the obvious. Let's just walk through this journey and start with transactional givers. Now, these are those people that give to your organization, and they give to your organization because they have been prompted in some way, shape, or form, whether it is through a direct mail piece, whether it's through an email, a giving day, um, you know, they've seen something online, or they were just inspired to make a gift, right? But it had nothing to do with you as the leader asking them to make that gift. It becomes transactional because what they're simply doing is they're responding to an ask, much like a coupon. Now, I hate to put it in terms that are that simple, but I think I have to sort of help you understand that when you are soliciting through direct mail or through a giving day or an email campaign, yeah, you're asking them for money, but it's not really an ask. It's an you're letting them know that you're available to support, but they don't have the benefit of you as the leader. They don't have the benefit of you to be able to talk to. It's one way. That's the point I'm making here, is that the connection is a one-way connection. Yes, you have gone out, sent an email, posted something online, maybe invited them to an event that they paid, paid for tickets to participate in. But you didn't really go to them directly and personally. You went to them at the same time you went to everybody, whether everybody on your email list, everybody on your social media platform, or just the general public. And so it's much like a coupon, right? So you see that something's on special, or you're going to get 10% off if you do this by this time, or whatever that may be. The whole idea is to incentivize the masses to participate. Now, let me just say there is absolutely nothing wrong with this. And I don't want it misconstrued that transactional giving is bad. It isn't. It's necessary. It is absolutely necessary in order for this to be successful, in order for major gifts to actually be something that you will be able to secure. Because you can't have the trajectory without having transactional givers as part of your story and as part of your database. So it's really, really critical that you understand that I'm certainly not bashing transactional giving. Where I get frustrated, and this is may very well be where you are right now, is that the transactional giving is where 100% of your individual giving is coming from, right? Your individual giving is coming from transactional gifts. And if that's where you're getting most of it, and this is where I talk to a lot of nonprofit leaders, and they start, oh, yeah, we have lots of donors. But when I look under the hood of what's really going on, they don't know who they are. They don't know who they are. They may know them, casually, but they don't really know them in the sense of how important what you do as a mission is to them, and especially whether or not they have the capacity to give in a significant way. But having transactional givers is important. In fact, it is something that I encourage to grow your donor base as much as you can. You want to cast the net as broadly as you possibly can and invite as many people to support as you possibly can. Right now, some will be incentivized because of something that may feel like a coupon, right? Hey, make this gift and win a chance to participate in this event, or make this gift and get this. Now, you know, fundraising is not supposed to be the quid pro quo, but in some cases it is. If we take a look at the public media space, and I served as a fundraising leader in that space for 4 years, it is not only transactional, but there is that quid pro quo. You make a gift of this amount, whether it's a monthly gift or a one time gift, you get this tote bag, you get this mug, you get, this CD or DVD. Of course, I'm dating myself by saying that. But there's something that you get in return. It's incentivizing the masses to participate. And yeah, that's okay. That's okay. Right? Because what you're trying to do is you're trying to build a base, but it isn't what you should rest your laurels on. It's not the end. It's just the beginning. So what do you do next? Well, first thing you have to do is you have to understand Why is it that these people are giving? And more importantly, you need to take a look at those transactional givers, and you have to be able to figure out who among them has capacity. And there's only one way to do that, and that's through wealth screening. And so, and I won't get into the details about using your database, using your CRM, making sure that the data in there is clean and consistent, and that you're using um, the same practices to collect first name, last name, address, email, phone number. But you need an address to be able to do the wealth screening. And I've talked about Windfall before. I'm not going to get into great detail. Whether you're watching or listening to this episode, there is a link in the description of this episode that includes a link to Windfall, where you can get a free wealth analytics report that just tells you who among, or rather, how many individuals among your donor base have a net worth of $1 million or more. If you want to know who, you can subscribe to that, but it really should be, it should be very important to know how many. But this is what the reason we do this. Yes, you're trying to suss out those folks who have capacity, but that isn't the end of the story. Okay. Yes, you're going to find, and I trust me, you have got major gift prospects right under your nose who have the capacity to make transformational gifts to your organization. I could almost guarantee, unless you are just starting your organization or you don't have a database of individuals, but if you've been fundraising for a number of years in a transactional way, and you've got, a number of donors that have been giving, I guarantee you have wealthy donors among them. And they're not just going to pop out and make themselves known and call you up or send you an email and say, "Hey, I've got a lot of money. Why don't you just come and talk to me? Let's meet." It's not going to happen that way. See, these big gifts, these transformational gifts, they don't fall out of the sky. They don't. It takes work, and this is part of the work. So now you can have a database of individuals. Not everybody's going to be a transactional giver, but you're going to look at everybody. You're going to screen everybody, but then you're going to prioritize those individuals who have been giving for 5 years or more consecutively of your transactional givers. Now you screen everybody and you combine those people who are your loyals, those who've given 5 years or more consecutively, and also they fall in the category of having capacity. Well, now you have narrowed down the list so that you know where to start. See, this is important because, and I recognize this because I have been an executive director for a small organization, and not a lot of staff, not a lot of time, not a lot of resources. And so working smarter is really critical here. And so you want to know that the people that you are attempting to build a relationship with are going to be able to give significantly when you ask. And so this is the vetting process that takes you from the transactional givers to the potential relational donors. Okay. So now, once you've done that and you've identified those people, now it's time to lean in, and it's time to start building rapport with them. And that isn't going to happen right away. Now, I'm really excited when I work with many of my clients, and sometimes I stumble on um, clients who have done the work, not even realizing that they have, to make sure that their constituents were well cared for. Well, let me give you an example of this, and I hope the person who I'm talking about, perhaps they will be listening or watching this, but they certainly will know who they are. This particular leader, not knowingly, but just based on how this person operated as a leader, created so much access to them from to their constituents. And in this case, this is an organization that works primarily with kids, so she created a lot of access to parents often and all the time. And I'm not talking about, just answering the phone if they call, but giving them opportunities to ask questions, and using, virtual platforms, like video conferencing, to connect with these parents, answer questions, all of those things. And what this leader was doing without realizing it is establishing such a presence, such rapport with these constituents, that by the time this person got to me and had not engaged in any major gift fundraising, but then did the screening, identified individuals who had capacity, and now this leader was able to pick up the phone and call a very large majority of these individuals, and they would answer because the rapport had already been established. Now, hadn't been established so much one on one, but it had been established inadvertently over time because of the access. And so there was an opportunity to engage in Q&A, to ask questions primarily about the organization and its mission and the things that they did to serve those kids. But fast forward to now, that rapport is there, that trust is there. This is something that many nonprofit leaders have to start doing very early into this process of moving the transactional givers to becoming relational donors, because this person that I'm talking about was actually engaging in a culture of philanthropy without realizing it. And so it has made the process of starting to secure large gifts a lot easier than it typically is. But in most cases, nonprofit leaders are really starting from scratch. And so what do you do when you identify these individuals? Well, because you are the leader of the organization, it certainly is okay for you to pick up the phone, send an email, and let them know that you're interested in talking with them. And if somebody that particularly a board member, that has a better or stronger or more personal relationship with them, then they can assist in making that connection. But the objective here now is, once you've identified who those individuals are of capacity, now it's time to lean in and start building trusting relationships with them. We're not talking about asking for money yet. We're talking about building trust. We're talking about learning about them and who they are and what's important to them about what you do. And that it takes time to do it. But you have to take that step. And I know that with everything that you have going on, this is an additional step, additional responsibility that you may not be engaged in right now. And so you've got to ask yourself, What do I have to do to make room for this? Because this is important. This is about increasing your philanthropic revenue stream in a way that is significant and sustainable. And so it's important. It's going to be important for you to focus in on building these relationships, connecting with them, inviting them to coffee, inviting them to a small gathering to learn more about who you are as a leader and what you're doing for the organization and more about your mission. So you've got to establish that rapport, and that's what helps you transition them in becoming these relational donors who will now give a little bit more, primarily because you're going to ask them. And that ask is coming from you in the context of a trusting relationship. So now they've gone from $50 a year to now perhaps $5,000, right? Because they have a better understanding of what the needs are, and you've asked them. And now they become a relational donor. Now you've got them. Now, this part is absolutely critical because in order for you to get to the point where they're making transformational gifts, and transformational gifts are gifts that are so significant that they move the needle in a significant way. They change the game for your organization. They enable you to do things that you could only dream of. And there are donors out there that, if you build a relationship with them and you're sharing with them what those needs are, what your vision is as a leader, and in partnership with your board, and then ultimately soliciting them for that gift after they have become a major donor and it's relational, the sky's the limit. But here's where many will make a mistake or not do enough. And that is when you secure that first major gift, that $5,000 check, that $2,500 check, maybe a $10,000 check, and then you go away. And the next time you see that donor is when you're ready to ask them for another gift. And if that's what happens, and you don't do the things that you need to do to maintain that rapport, to maintain that relationship, to convey to them the return on their investment as a donor, if you don't take those steps, you are taking something that is meant to be relational and you will make it transactional without even realizing it, because you've waited too long to re-engage them. And when you re-engage them, it's only about the dollars. If you do that, you might as well just hang it up. It's really, really important that when they become relational donors, when you are securing modest major gifts, whatever your minimum major gift is, $1,000, 2,500, 5,000, right? But you're doing that consistently because you are keeping them engaged. But if you are so focused on the next gift that you forget about your current major donors, then that is going to be very harmful down the road. So it's going to be really important for you to maintain rapport after you've secured a large gift, because that transformational gift can come from that. It could be the next gift that you get from them. It could be a gift that you get from them that's 3 or 4 gifts down the road. You may be launching a capital campaign. And by the way, a lot of nonprofits only engage in major gifts during a capital campaign, which in essence is making major gifts transactional, because you're only coming to these people, you're only resurfacing every 3, 4, 5, 10 years, and asking them to give significantly to support whatever it is that you have as part of your campaign priorities when you haven't spoken to them in 3 or 4 years. They've still been giving, but they've been giving a very small, modest, maybe $50 a year, or maybe they're giving monthly. But imagine if you established and maintained rapport with them, how much revenue you would be able to generate for your mission. And as I always say, this isn't about the money. This is about two major things. It's about relationships with people who have capacity, and it's about the people that you serve. You're in the middle. So your job is to matchmake the passion of those people who have capacity with your mission that helps the people that you serve. You're just the conduit. You're the go-between. And I don't mean to diminish you in your role at all. This is about you being the steward of your mission and taking on the responsibility every single day to build those trusting relationships, make the case, make the ask, close the deal, secure the gift, and have those dollars be used to better the lives of the people that you serve, however you do that. They need to be your focus. So the objective here is to start with those donors who have been giving in a transactional way, identifying who among them has capacity using wealth screening, and then starting to build relationships with them, listening, learning from them, and ultimately asking them to give to the organization and secure a major gift. But what happens after that first major gift is really, really important, because now you want to maintain that relationship, maintain that trust, keep them engaged, keep them excited, answer their questions, listen to their feedback. And ultimately, an opportunity will present itself for you to solicit them for that transformational gift. If they have the capacity to do that and the timing is right. So that's the trajectory. It's pretty simple when you think about it. Now, easy to execute? Yes, on the surface it is. But at the end of the day, life happens. And I know that as nonprofit leaders, things get busy, and this major gifts thing is usually the first thing that gets put on the back burner. So I challenge you to do this. I challenge you to make time for this activity. Put it on your calendar. Let your staff know that you are making this shift so that they can be supportive. And make sure that you're doing something every single day that connects with your major gift prospects so that you can get in front of them, build those trust and relationships, make the case, make the ask, and close the deal. You get into that habit and make it an integral part of what you do and not something that comes in waves. And I know that that is easier said than done. But once you do that, whew, imagine if you had the resources to be able to grow your organization in such a way that you'll be able to hire more staff that will help you to secure more resources, and most importantly, to be able to serve more people. That's why we do what we do. We care deeply about service. We care deeply about the mission. And at the end of the day, this whole fundraising thing, it's not about the dollars. It's about what the dollars do for the people that you serve. I hope that this has been helpful to you. And thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And we'll see you next time.